Alright, welcome to the gameplay guide of the all-new Royal Knights with the Omni X, Omega, and Cool Boy support, which is really cool. Really nice to see this deck back in action and probably one of the top tier competitive decks to be playing this format as well. So starting with our mulligan hand, we only have the new Omnimon to work off of in there, and everything else was kind of a little bit too big. We want to find ourselves like Magnamon, searching cards like the Last Guardian, or at least Omnimons to play with. So this second mulligan hand is looking a little bit cleaner, a little bit better. So I have two choices: either play Omnimon past turn for 4, or I decide to actually go for the Last Guardian straight up just to do some early searching. It does pay for memory, but I at least get to gain 1 off of the 1 inheritable of King Drasil underneath it. So then I can now have Last Guardian. Being able to grab 2 hits, 1 Cool Boy and 1 Omnimon is really nice. Omnimon is a X antibody trait Digimon after all, which is really nice, and that's something I want to continue to actually pay attention to. So then, because by playing this Omnimon out, I want to continue to attack and stuff sources underneath and draw and sort of continue to go for that little bit of like the lower level chips in the early stages of the game. When it comes to the matchup, we are playing against the ghosts with the Necromon, which can be very scary because they can do a ton of damage. But the thing is, we have big beefy security. So as long as their first check is something that's DP higher than Necromon, that can actually help us survive in the game a little bit, because if it's not, we might lose fairly quickly. They have a lot of floating capability to play stuff back and continue to build their board over and over again, which is another scary thing. They can delete our stuff. By getting rid of our Royal Knights, we're not going to be able to tuck in the sources underneath King Drasil at the starter main or in the breeding time. And here, this is a very good example. Necromon goes for 2 checks, finding a Leopard first, and then something else, which is the Last Guardian. Man, that's 2 hits already, and we're pretty much like, if they keep doing it, we're basically going to lose. But we're going to be okay. This is going to be a grindy matchup because we are actually going to try to control them back a little bit as well. There's a lot of back and forth. Our main source of removal is deletion, which can benefit them, but we have to utilize the deletion and control elements at the right times just to make sure they don't go into Necromon again. That is basically my mission, and the rest of the goal for this game is to not let them go into Necromon as much as possible. Really slow down their board, slow down their attacks as much as I can, and then outgrind them eventually when they're out of resources. That's when we go for the strike and attack, because Omnimon and the whole Royal Knight deck is really a late game deck powerhouse. You know, you want to scale as long as you can, and once it scales long enough, you are just going to instantly win. And that's exactly what our game plan and our the game winning condition here really is. So they're going to end up with a Metal Phantomon here, and they're not going to delete our Omnimon. It has blockers, so we're just going to go ahead and swing, which I don't mind them blocking, to be honest, just because I can tuck an extra source right away underneath King Drasil, which is kind of what I wanted, because that's going to give me the perfect reduction for the follow-up play that I need to actually deal with their board. Again, you know, having that lower 5 on there is going to be scary. I want to get rid of that Metal Phantomon, because if by getting rid of it, that means it slows down Necromon once again. Although they have the resources, they have like Violet inputs in there, which is going to constantly give them a memory every single turn already. And then with the Wisdom training, they can climb up all over again. But we're going to go for the Genku and Jesmon combo to play out the token, to pop something that's 8k or lower, taking out that Metal Phantomon. They can still play a level 4 back out because they have the regular Phantomon inheritable to float that body back. But at least, again, we're here trying to slow them down a little bit. But they can go into another Phantomon here, and then they can easily go into another Necromon if they need to, and then they can start using deletion and execution and so on. They're going to attack with the Backmon right here. Of course, we're going to block. I know what they're trying to do, because with their Ghost trait being like deleted there, they can now go into Necromon for a reduced cost of 2 off Violet's effect, which is really good. Of course, it's going to try to delete one of our Jesmon and Genkumon, which is level 6, so we're definitely going to use the token for decoy to keep them on the board. They can attack with 12k. No retaliation here, so of course I'm also gonna block with Genkumon as much as I can. I need to set up defenses. I can't let them attack. If we let them attack, we're gonna lose momentum, and we only have 1 source underneath King Drasil at this moment. Eventually, if they chip us enough, we cannot stop all of it, and we are actually gonna lose. But they're still neutralizing the board. They might be gaining value because they're playing 2 bodies back out afterwards. Necromon plays a level 5, Phantomon Hero plays a level 4, and then here they are again with more extra bodies to work with. And this is where we're okay. I still feel confident, but this is where they want to continue to chip and attack us, and that's totally fine. You see, that's the thing. They run into Magnamon and security. If that was a Necromon attacking, that's going to be 2 checks guaranteed essentially, because the second check doesn't even matter since it's going to get deleted anyway. So I'm going to end with a Reapermon, which is also quite a problematic card because it has collision. Although we're not going to be able to digivolve ourselves much with effect anyway, so the Reapermon's not going to be able to disrupt us. But once it gets deleted, it can actually delete a Cool Boy, which is a very, very high value card. And I don't have a second one established too, so this is the one and only one that's sort of like keeping us in the game. So looping back to us here, I'm just trying to decide, okay, I had a medieval Gallantmon, I can instantly get rid of those 2 bodies, but is it really necessary too? I have the regular Gallant, which I can actually play for free at this point with combining with the cost reduction from everything we have in trash, plus what I have underneath King Drasil. But I decided to go for Last Guardian first, just because I know I can gain memory back and keep turn. Let's try and see what we can find here. And maybe that can tell us something and see how we want to plan out the plays. Because we're going to gain 3 memory off the King Drasil Inheritables back now here. And then at least minimum, we're going to have to give the opponent like 3 memory, depending on how we want to play for the rest of it. So I am going to go down with the Gallant, just because I identify that it's going to be lethal next turn with the Bakemon and the Reapermon plus the Candlemon in the back. If I don't have a blocker, I can't stop the additional attack. They're going to have 3 swings. So I'm going to go ahead and chip away. Thankfully, I'm not going to delete the Reapermon just yet because Gallantmon won't be able to take it out. So I am going to give them 3 memory like I mentioned, but at least I can gain 1 and draw one off Cool Boy there, utilize it, and then hard play down this Omecamon, at least draw additional card and see where I go from there. But no blockers, and they're just going to go ahead and attack. And with the collision, we can actually use Omecamon. Well, we're going to have to use Omecamon to block, so they probably don't want us to do that because then that means we get to put a source underneath, and we also get to stop attack. So this is okay. This is definitely okay. They go into Bakemon, kind of scary again. They might be able to go into a potential level 6 if they have like a scramble or something like that, but it looks like they don't. So they're just going to go straight into Phantomon. Phantomon is going to execute an attack. And this is here where I'm actually thinking I can potentially go into a Jesmon GX. So I'm really thinking really hard, just because this is a really tight game at this moment. Every decision matters when you're playing Royal Knights. And that's so crucial because if I go into Jesmon GX, I can get rid of some stuff on the board. But of course, they're going to have their undeletion effects go off. And depending on what I delete, they can gain memory back, thanks to the Inheritables, alongside with Analog Youth is going to gain memory back, Hatch and Nick as well for them. And they're going to be able to potentially rebuild all the way up with Violet Inputs. So this is a hit that I actually decided to take. That way they get to delete themselves. I don't have Jesmon GX on the board, because then it could be potentially a liability where if they find a way to like delete it, they can even hard play like a Necromon, delete it, and an Ace Overflow, doesn't matter to them. But they got rid of that extra body. Can be very scary. So I'm being very careful with my choices here, whether if I should blast Digivolve or not into a Jesmon GX. Now keep in mind, Jesmon GX can go on top of Gallantmon since it's red, and after all. And that's the thing, right? They get to float the bodies back, they can get to climb into a level 5 here, and then they go into Necromon again with Jesmon GX being the only body on the board. They're going to gain Ace Overflow, and then things are just not going to look good afterwards there. Again, they're attacking with Reapermon, thinking and considering the same thing that could potentially happen. I'm deciding, is this the moment to go into Jesmon GX? It doesn't even make sense. Honestly, conclusion is no. Do not go into Jesmon GX. Just let them go for that hit. They're not going to be able to rush and finish the game because that Phantomon, it has summoning sickness. It doesn't have rush. But because they actually want to go over into our Gallantmon instead, they're not going to go for security. But that allows them to take out the Cool Boy, and then they get to float another body back just like that. But thanks to the Cool Boy effect, because Gallantmon would leave the battle area, it does get the immediate effect. So it does interrupt that. So that allows us to play out the Omecamon. So now we have a blocker established just in case. But of course, we know they can probably finish it with Necromon if they want to. And they're also just deciding what they want to play out based off of the deletion of the Reapermon inheritable that I had underneath at that moment. And I believe it was a regular Phantomon as well. So here, that passes us to us, ending with an Analog Youth to search and giving us only 1 memory to work with. The thing is with Royal Knights, before the older playstyle is you want to ramp up a lot of sources so then you can play Omnimon like this. But the thing is, thanks to all the early game chips that we've been dishing out, this is a good opportunity that we actually have to go into Omnimon either way. Because again, there's going to be 3 bodies in the next turn and we're going to have to find a way to deal with it. We're going to set up a board Not gonna have a lot of blockers, but we have counterplays that we can potentially stop them. We also perfectly put them back to 1, which is kind of nice, which is why I decided to chip with the Omnimon. So if it got deleted, that would be perfect, which really came into our favor afterwards. And then we can actually clear their board here as well, depending on what they play, because I'm gonna go for Jessamon on play first to play out the tokens. The tokens, since something's played, Jessamon can delete the AKO lower. And then now with Dynasmon, I'll resolve that last. That pops everything that's level 4 and under, leaving the opponent with only 2 memory, and at the start of their main they'll gain up to 3, but it's going to be very difficult to climb all the way up once again with only that amount of memory, especially if you don't have Wisdom Training set up over there. Even with Violet Inputs, not going to really help them get there. Analog Youth, that means they're going to have to sacrifice this one and only stack, and I'm glad that I at least have the token, which is a blocker. Decoy Gankumon's is also a blocker, so I can stop any attack that's coming their way. I'll still have that Jessamon GX Ace in my hand, just in case they want to do anything like you know, slippery, or try to finish us off, or maybe go for something cheeky. But they coming down with the Metal Phantomon in the end. They kind of debating if it's, you know, even not worth actually deleting itself, because it's just a blocker and they're not going to be able to delete anything off our board anyway, since everything is level 6 and 7 and beyond. But this is tricky, because if we attack, all they have to do is use their inheritables, and then Analog Youth, they get to suspend, steal the turn away from us. So I was just thinking, okay, is there a way out? Because like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of deletion effects in Royal Knights as the board control, but you guys probably saw it. The hint is right there all along. The new Omni X and the last Guardians that I have. I was reading it and I'm just like, I'm pretty sure this works, because what I need to do and what I want to do is don't attack, don't let them block. Get rid of that Phantomon, because by digivolving into Omnimon X, I'm going to choose a Digimon. I'm going to choose Gankumon to stay on the board. But thanks to the last Guardian, everything else gets deleted. I get to keep both my Omnis. I get to bottom deck that Metal Phantomon and finish it off like this. Alright, next game we're facing off against Dynamon. Now don't underestimate this matchup, because Dynamon can do some serious damage to our security. We mentioned earlier in the previous matches, like one of the thing with Royal Knights is that there's a lot of like big security that can actually take down the opponent's Digimon, but when you're facing against a red deck that has a lot of DP buffs, it doesn't matter anymore. With lots of checks as well, we can get really ran down very quickly. So we're gonna have to be cautious. We're gonna have to play again as usual, board control, try to slow the game pace down eventually and find it out, so that we can control the flow of the game into our favor. Like always, if you guys want to see early deck lists on the channel, make sure to join the AVAULT Club, and I really appreciate the support, where you can see exactly what I've been cooking up with Royal Knights and all the different variations and builds I'm coming up with as well. But anyways, back to the game. Playing Dynasmon, need to fetch and find pieces as quickly as we can. We're going to give quite a lot of memory to our opponent. The EX4 Agu in combination with Ryotaro is very good value. You're constantly gaining 2 memory, and against Royal Knights, we're always ending the turn with a body for sure. So then they're going to be gaining so much off there, and now they get to play out Medieval for 7, taking out our Dynasmon, so we can't able to place it underneath Kingdrasil. And now I'm just going to have to find ways to search once again, and then I'm going to use Last Guardian. Think of what I want to grab here. It's like, do I need to find more pieces? Do I need that Omni? Not really. So I decided to grab another Last Guardian off of it. Get to gain 2 memory back off of Kingdrasil's inheritable effects. And now I'm stuck in this awkward position of, if I play anything out, it's probably going to get deleted. So I'm going to have to find a way to address this Medieval as soon as I can. In the end, I decided to drop the Omekamon just to draw a card. And I was like, okay, you know what? If you want to delete it, go ahead and delete this guy. If you delete this guy, at least I get the Techosaurus underneath, and you don't get the memory gain. But it looks like they play around it. They actually just let it live. They're like, sure, whatever. And now they get to gain 2 more memory once again. Starting their turn at 5 is just crazy here, but we did manage to find her out. I think we did draw into the Orioken Ace, which can instantly help us deal with that Medieval Galamon before it's able to even trigger its when digivolving effect, or its all turns effect to trigger its when digivolving effect. Again, they're going to continue to play more bodies and search up. And here we are just in about like the 2nd or 3rd turn of the game. We don't even have our full Kingdrasil out yet. And here, this is when they decide to pop it after the fact, which is really good play, because that means they gain the memory value first. And then now we tuck our source in. They're like, it doesn't matter to us anymore. now they can even like go into this Tyranno, and even though it has summoning sickness because it can't attack just now, they can easily just alliance together with the medieval, pumping it up with extra DP and just go for 2 checks very safely, which will run over most anything now at this point because of it reaching up to, you know, more than 15. And then now they're checking into that Purge. Okay, we get to set something there on the board. We get to actually utilize something. I tucked in Leopardmon just because I felt like that's something I would always kind of used to. And not only that, it's just because if I ever need to do the classic early Leopard plus Omnimon combo, you know, I can see that this is the game to do it, just because they have so many bodies here. They're actually able to ramp up. They're taking out our damage and our security fairly quickly. So again, man, I was like, gotta find a way to actually really get rid of this, because next turn is going to be lethal. They have 5 hits, so I'm gonna have to drop down the ALPHAMON Oriuken Ace, take down that medieval Gallantmon once and for all, and then now see where I can sort of end the board and sort of like maybe try to stay in the game. So I'm going to play out the Leopard because I want to use Leopard's effect potentially to play another additional body and at least like either have a board of blockers to stop the potential attacks, but also just to board clear them a little bit because I can rush and attack with the Leopard too. The nice thing with Leopard's effect is that it's a main effect, so it's not an on-play effect, so therefore Purge is not going to stop me from using it. Kind of lucky how I was able to find a Magna off of here, so I was like, okay, you know what, I can easily end the turn by playing a Magna and then sort of like sit from there. And I'm like, okay, there shouldn't be that much memory on the opponent's side they can't work with. I mean, they start at 4, but I was also like, I could have played a Jesmon X, played out a token, pop something as well, but that's going to end up giving them a lot more memory. But at least all our board is blocker now at the moment. Both the ALPHAMON Oriuken and the Magmon is blocker, thanks to the fact that Leopardmon also gives the ALPHAMON Oriuken a blocker here. And if they potentially try to like attacking our security, you know, we get to gain 3 memory back as well. So, you know, just kind of like limiting their potential plays right here. But they're still going to go for it. They're going to go for it into Tyrannomon first, and then they're going to go into Tyranno X. And this is where I realized, oh no, they can actually just go for it either way. And this is definitely a tough one because I didn't see it coming, because I'm going to attack and raid with Tyranno X and then use this when attacking effect to digivolve into the Metal Tyrannomon for a reduced cost of 1. And then they get to suspend down our stuff, get like the D-digivolve and bottom decking protection, which we don't really play anyways in this particular build. And then now go into Dinomon. Dinomon is massive, actually, even bigger than ALPHAMON Oriuken thanks to all the DP buff inheritables. Ace Overflow is going to give them 5 memory back, keeping their turn and piercing over us, clearing out all of our security. And wow, I can't believe they just ended us there like that in a pinch. Next matchup, we're facing up against Invisimon, which is definitely a new archetype in deck that came in BT20. Really interesting. Never really played that before. Never played against it first time. So this is going to be pretty cool to see what it can do. We know that it can flip security up, and it has a whole lot of other effects and benefits when it comes to that. But let's talk about our opening hand. We are going first, and yeah, not workable. We need to find our searching cards. We need stuff that we can play for much lower cost right off the bat, because otherwise we're not really doing too much. So yeah, let's go ahead. And this is a little bit better. Last Guardian is always a great card, and wow, what a crazy top deck, huh? Triple Magnas. Wow. Okay, but sure. So that way we can then play Magna in the next following turn for cheaper or even for free. That's going to be great for us, because then we can start drawing and cycling some cards. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Magna for 1, and then we're going to go for the Purge just to draw and then tuck something underneath to get some sources ramping, and then we can actually play something out afterwards if we need to sort of go for rush and attack. Now the cool thing with Purge is, if you guys didn't know, you can actually place any Digimon card. It doesn't have to be Royal Knight trait specific. It actually says any Digimon card. So by playing in the Omekamon preemptively, I get that inheritable in the breeding as well if the opponent checks in my security, which I know this is what the deck kind of wants to do. You know, you want to put my security face up and then attack into it with jamming in the early stages and whatnot, so then I can actually play the Omekamon out, which would be really good, and that would be a perfect cycle. Look at our top security there. Perfect. Cool boy. Really, really good card for sure. 100%. And if they're going to check into it right now, we're just going to get instant value and also just like permanent value for the rest of the game. And it looks like they do. They have to attack us at some point, right? So they're gonna go in with jamming, and then once they check, and then they get to go into like their own security face-up. The Omnimon can always just play itself back, but since we lost the security, we're getting a lot of get benefits here by playing the Omnimon back out as well by suspending the King Dressel, which is really cool. And like a new mechanic for the deck, which I get to showcase you guys on how it works, is pretty sick. They're going to end the board with a Megadramon, and now it's passing to us. And now our board is much more established, and with a lot more memory to work with, we can do a lot more things. We're going to be able to tuck Magnemon underneath and draw off of it as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and attack with a Mechamon just because, like, yeah, we're going to chip them down. Royal Knights is always great at chipping them down, but then they come down with the Metal Seedramon, which bomb decks us, because now with the Omecamon, if it gets deleted, I can always tuck it underneath King Dressel, and then King Dressel is going to give me additional reduction. So I felt like, you know what, this is a good opportunity to actually just go for an early Omni play. Generally, you want to save your Omnimon for the final big play, but the thing is with Royal Knights right now, it's actually sped up a lot where you don't really necessarily need to rely on just the Omnimon to finish the games off. All the other cards inside the deck itself is actually relatively good at chunking the opponent's security and winning beforehand, especially with the fast-paced meta and how quick everything is right now. Royal Knights is able to keep up like that. But anyways, I felt like that was good. Deal with that Metal Seedramon right off the way, you know, get Ace Overflow as well, and then that was definitely worth it for sure. And now they only have an Oblivimon to work with here, and then yeah, we have Omnimon. And that's a little bit scary because there's an Omnimon security, Omnimon on the board already, so that means I only have 2 left to work with that is potentially in the deck. Otherwise, there could be another one in security, and then that could be kind of difficult. It seems like the deck is also not the fastest that we're facing off against, so it's going to give us enough time overall. So not sure why the opponent didn't use the Altea to like place a source from the trash, which I think they could have then, you know, kept the body, but they definitely want to do Marvin Jackson as well with jamming, which makes sense because you need to have a source in order to sort of like go put your Oblivimon into your under your security, and then the Marvin Jackson would just probably just pop back out normally as a tamer. But anyways, guys, we're still learning new decks anyways, so you know, we're just having fun and trying to learning as we go. Anyways, now we're gonna go for a Magnemon. I want to go ahead and chip away the security. I want to have it to be deleted so I can draw a card, which is something I don't mind. That's why I used the purge option. I felt like that was the right moment. I'm ramping up more cards. That one cool boy is drawing us so much, and then now I get to play Lord Knight and play the Magna all over again, and then I can set them back to 3 by playing another cool boy. And yeah, I'm just going to constantly get value and value overall, and I'm going to scale very strong later now because I'm going to have a lot of sources underneath King Dressel as I continue to work, and I continue to play my Royal Knights. I can continue to gain memory and draw additional cards and find more things to play. Royal Knights is a deck that the more cards you have in hand, the stronger it becomes, because there's so many like unique different cards that you might play depending on your build. You can find outs to almost anything and sort of like really like test the players like knowledge and like sort of like them skill matchup and knowing what to do exactly. This is why this deck is incredibly fun. So it looks like they're gonna want to tuck under a Blimpmon underneath the Olivia off their hand from the Altea effect this time. And yeah, they're gonna go into their Invisimon, which is gonna be their boss monster. And that's one good thing for that card against us, is that they are guaranteed to delete one of our Royal Knights no matter what. But with the double cool boys, we get to put down 2 Omecamons that we have in the hand, which is why there's a lot of synergy, because we were drawing a lot, then we draw more cards, then we get more Omecamons. With more Omecamons, then we get to play more stuff, and then we get to have more inheritables and so on, tucking in King Dressel, add more sources again and again. Yeah, really cool stuff here. So the Invisimon has pretty much a similar effect to Oblivimon. They get to go back into security, and then, you know, the check is pretty much with jamming with Marvin Jackson. They're pretty much chipping us down bit by bit, and I'm not too worried. Just because we have so many bodies on the board, like the Omecamons can easily attack the next turn. Magnemon is going to get under King Dressel, which is fine, which is going to give us additional card, an additional source. And then they come down with a Airdramon, putting Marvin Jackson underneath, and they're going to end their turn. They do have Reboot without needing the Marvin Jackson anyways. So, okay, I see this as a really good opportunity to actually clear their board. I really want to get rid of everything if possible, because if I can, the next turn I should be able to win, I think. Like, or in the following turns, I can push towards game a little bit faster so that before they're going to check us out. So I'm going to go here as like, okay, I probably want to play the Jesmon so they can play a token down. Also to block an attack, but also just to really pop that Omnimon and get it out of the way so they can't get into another Invisimon if in case they have one in the hand, because that's the level 5 that helps them cycle again and again. Gonna attack with a Mechamon there, and then get to tuck additional source underneath by tucking the Leopardmon. And then now we're pretty good, and we're just trying to find a way to pass turn. I know they started 3 with Altea, so I was just like, you know what? Maybe let's just go for like a Last Guardian just to search, just because I don't have anything else that I really want to play. Since everything else is just really memory costly. It costs a lot of memory, but that's thankfully where the Last Guardian really paid off, because now that it guarantees and found us the Omnimon, which we can actually go for the secure win con off of it with the classic Royal Knight style. And like I said, I guess the rest of the other 2 did end up being the deck, but thankfully again, with all that draw power we have these days with the Cool Boy, again, I really want to iterate that is such a good card, because we draw so much. Now we can find our Omnimon, find the pieces we need a lot sooner, so that we can achieve our win condition sooner as well, and not have to like sort of like play from behind. Invisimon's gonna come out, but I'm not worried, just because again, they're gonna pop our token. I mean, they're gonna try to pop our Jesmon. They don't want to pop Omecamon, because Omecamon can just tuck itself underneath back just King Giselle, and if they check in security, we get to play it back out. So we're gonna aim and target for the Jesmon. So we're gonna use the decoy of that token earlier just now to basically protect us and keep the Jesmon on the board, so that we can actually have those sources underneath, which is again really important. But again, they only have 2 hits. I don't think or anticipate anything that has rush or unsuspending in this deck. I'm just not too sure. I mean, it does have some blue elements after all, but it can get scary, because if they're able to sort of take out a security somehow off an effect or something like that, and then just attack into us, and that's basically 2 checks per game, and there's nothing we can do to actually stop that too. And they have 6 memory to work with as well, so they're gonna go for Invisimon check first. We're of course gonna block with the Omecamon. I think that's intentionally just definitely something we want to do. Limit the amount of attacks they can do at this turn, survive this turn, because once we survive this turn, next turn we're good. And it's pretty funny how you get to see the security and see all the effects that kind of come out and all that, do all that kind of stuff. We all know what's coming, so it's like no surprise. Might as well just attack and keep pushing for the game. And here it really just looks like our opponent is struggling to find a win con, or possibly find a way to be in a better position in this turn after all. Just because it's like, okay, what can they really do? Digivolve into a level 5 and then pass turn, you know, put in Marvin Jackson just so they have like blocker online as well, possibly to stop our attacks. But honestly, it's not going to matter at this point. They're not going to be able to do too much, because once our sources go underneath, we're not going to play into the ace anymore. We have enough sources to play Omnimon for 2 costs, and then thanks to the Cool Boy, we get to gain enough memory back, keeping our turn, and the whole squad is just going to come out and basically finish everything off like classic with Royal Knight style. Maybe they play something in security that stops us from attacking, I'm not too sure, but this only makes sense to go for it at this point. Another contingency is to play something off with Leopardmon's effect, so then we can get blocker and entire board, so we have a big wall of defense too. But looks like there's nothing in their security, so we managed to win the game in the end. Make sure to get your very own Initialize Spar collection on the AVAULT store right now, and definitely watch the latest Battle Vault episode to get exclusive discount codes for this latest drop. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.